Hello and welcome to AP's Battleground Roundup. I'm Bill Barrow, a national politics reporter based in Atlanta, Georgia for the Associated Press. And I'm here today with several of my colleagues from around the country to bring you an inside look at a trio of Senate races that will help determine which party controls the United States Senate for the final 2 years of President Joe Biden's term. We're starting today with three races that span the country, but all involve Democratic incumbents in competitive races against Republicans who kind of come from the Donald Trump wing of the Republican Party, if you will. We're going to start today in Georgia. We have a very hot Senate race here between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, who faces a tough re-election challenge from Republican Herschel Walker. It's been a tight race throughout, but the headlines this week have been dominated by Mr. Walker and a story alleging that he paid for an abortion of a girlfriend more than a decade ago. That's a big deal because he's such a staunch opponent of abortion. My colleague Meg Kennard was with Herschel Walker. Let's go to Meg and see how he's responding to this bombshell.
That's right, Bill. It's good to be with you. This was Herschel Walker's first event since those reports came out that not only had he purportedly paid for this abortion, but also the woman involved had another child with Herschel Walker. But Herschel Walker is continuing to say that these stories are fabrications, they are made up. He is adamant in saying that this is not something that is factual. And he really is trying to deflect and take attention away from what has become sort of the biggest narrative in this campaign right now.
Thanks, Meg. Our colleague Jeff Ame also has been tracking this race closely in Georgia, and he's out in the field this week. Jeff, what are you hearing and how is it landing?
Democrats that I were meeting with here had said that they were worried that it's going to be hard to get their voters to the polls, but this is an opportunity. This story really sort of ties a bow on a lot of the allegations and revelations about Herschel Walker that have come out over the past year, whether it's his domestic violence or his other family issues or his general truthfulness in his business record. And it's an opportunity to sort of renew all of those allegations while voters are finally beginning to pay attention. Republicans are kind of loath to say anything about it publicly. Privately, they admit that it's bad news. They are trying to muddle through, though. They're trying to keep pushing. No one wants to give up with Senate control so narrowly divided that this one election could make a big difference.
Thanks, Jeff. That's great stuff from on the ground in Georgia. And we're going to move now across the country to Arizona. It's another Senate race where a Democratic incumbent, Mark Kelly, faces a very tough re-election fight. It comes from Blake Masters, a Republican who's more in the mold of former President Donald Trump. We're going to go to our colleague there, Jonathan Cooper, to get the lay of the land.
Yeah, hi, Bill. Good to see you. The fundamental dynamic in this race is really you've got a popular Democrat against a Republican who's wounded coming out of the primary and trying to reinvent himself. And the polls consistently show, a small but distinct lead for Kelly, who's been able to sort of build a brand a little bit more independent of Joe Biden, of the Democratic Party, in a state that, has long been Republican and is turning a lot more purple.
Is it as much about Kelly himself, or is it about the Republican nominee, Blake Masters, and his liabilities, or is it a combination?
I think it's a combination. Blake Masters ran to the right. He's got a persona who's sort of provocative. He likes to say controversial things. I think that endeared him to a lot of Republican primary voters, but it also, gave the Democrats a lot of fodder. And to compound matters for Masters, he just doesn't have the money to keep up with the Democrats. Mark Kelly is one of the most prolific fundraisers ever in the United States Senate. He's just raising money hand over fist, which allows him to really push his narrative of what he wants this race to be about.
So we're going to move from the Southwest to the chilly fall Northeast to New Hampshire. There are plenty of interesting races there, including an incumbent senator, Democrat Maggie Hassan, who is a former governor and now is seeking re-election to her post in Washington. She faces a challenge from a bit of a surprise Republican nominee, Don Baldock. Let's set the stage with Holly Raymer.
Hi, thank you. Yes, so New Hampshire, you have Maggie Hassan and the two House candidates as well, all Democratic incumbents, all facing Republican challengers who come from the Donald Trump wing of the party, which was a bit of a surprise. Many people had expected Republican Governor Chris Sununu to run for U.S. Senate. When he decided not to do that, that really shook everything up, made room for Don Bolduc, who has been campaigning for 2 years for this seat, to come away with a surprise win in the primary. That leaves sort of an interesting dynamic. You have Donald Trump, who won the New Hampshire primary in 2016, but did not carry the state in the general election that year or in 2020. So Republican voters have to make this choice. They rejected Donald Trump, but now their Republican candidates are from his wing of the party.
Thank you, Holly. Well, as you can see, we have several interesting Senate races developing around the country for this final stretch, and any one of them could be the race that tilts a 50-50 Senate to either Republican or Democratic control for the final 2 years of President Joe Biden's term. This has been AP Battleground Roundup. Thanks for joining us, and tune in again in the coming weeks as we show you the battleground map around the country. I'm Bill Barrow with the Associated Press.